Happy Friday, YouTube. Aren't Fridays always happy? Well, maybe not so much this morning as the Leafs laid a massive egg last night. Tampa was in town for the Leafs' maybe fourth or fifth home game of the season. They've had a big homestand to start the season, other than one blip into Columbus early on. And Tampa is a team that scares a lot of people because of all their firepower. They've never really frightened me all that much because they're kind of, I hate to say it, but they're built like the Leafs, way heavy on the talent and not enough grit. That's what I find with Tampa, and that's how they were bounced so easily in the first round of the playoffs by Columbus last year. At least that's my feeling. And so Toronto's gone down that same kind of road, and I think that's why they can't get out of the first round over the last few years against teams that play more physically against them. So that's just my 2 cents. I think the Leafs should draft all Canadians, all forward and D over the next 2 drafts. Nobody under 6'2", just big bruising Canadian players who can also skate and play the game, right? So because they got all the skill and the speed they need, for God's sake. They need somebody to go out and lay some consequences on people and make sure nobody's taking liberties with all the big guns. So but anyways, that's besides the point. So last night against Tampa, I thought, here we go with Tampa and the Leafs again. Very closely matched, very evenly matched. And in the first period, that's kind of what you got. It was two high offensively powered teams going at each other, and it turned into a bit of a track meet. Point was back in the Tampa lineup. I guess he'd missed the games at the start of the season, and he opened the scoring early on. Leafs answered back. Janssen with a nice little setup between Marner and Matthews got the first Leafs goal to tie it at 1-1. And then after that, Tavares got his first of the season, which was great. He's been playing great, but just hadn't hit the score sheet with goals yet. And after his torrid start last season, it was kind of like, oh, Johnny needs a goal, just for his own sake, right? Because he's probably pissed off about it. So he got a nice little tip in front of the net to go up 2-1. Then Tampa came storming back with 2 goals. And then Matthews tied it up at 3-3 as the period kind of unwound. And then Tampa scored later on to make it 4-3, and that's how we headed to the break. 4-3 Tampa lead. Goaltending was not great on either side, but it was kind of one of those things where you got all these great players making great plays, right? And sometimes you can't really, 4-3 first period, as much as you can't blame the goalies in this one, you couldn't really, right? So, but then it was kind of like the Montreal game where the Leafs just let that third period slip away. They let the rest of the game slip away. I was expecting, okay, let's have another second period like that. Only, hopefully the Leafs could score more than Tampa this time. But it wasn't. And Tampa took over. The Leafs kind of... They didn't stop competing because the stats were all really close. It seemed like like everything was... They were getting their chances still, but they just weren't getting the breaks. Like, pucks that were going to spring them hit the ref's skate and this and that and the other thing, and it was just one of those games that went downhill. Bounces off people in front of the net that went in, and the Leafs pulled Freddie after the 7th goal, which was the last goal. So Hutchinson played some part of the third period and shut things down after that. But it was just, the last 2 periods were just a sad, messy affair, and in a lot of cases, it was not really much the Leafs could do about it. So, can we consider this another early season lesson, like we did the Montreal third period kind of experience? Hopefully, I don't know. I was happy with their effort in St. Louis, even though against St. Louis, even though they lost, and their effort in this game seemed to be there. But they're just not getting the results, and last night they didn't get the results in a big way. That one just went sideways. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they can put this one behind them and learn from it, like they did some of the other ones. It's been a good learning week with the losses against Montreal, St. Louis, and now Tampa. I think this will give them a bit of ammunition and a bit of a mindfulness maybe going forward and being a better team and getting some wins. So we'll see. Hopefully I'm right, but usually I'm wrong. Have a good one.